Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros, and today we're continuing our review of the brand new equipment released for the 2023 golf season with a review of these. It's the Cobra Aerojet irons. Now, of all that Top Gun style marketing, what we want to find out is, will we be flying first class with these irons, or will we be a little bit budget airline? Let's get down to the fitting bay and let's give them a hit. Okay, so just got down to the fitting bay and I've got the Cobra Aerojet iron in my hand for the first time, and my initial first impressions of how it looks is, yeah, really cool. It's got some cool sort of shaping at the back. Living in the UK, seeing a bit of the red and the blue similar to the Union Jack is pretty cool on it. In terms of its sort of sole, I think it's one of, although it is still a little bit chunkier than like a blade or a player's iron, I don't think it's as chunky as some of the game improvement irons that I've hit. Definitely doesn't feel that way, and that might be the way that they sort of shape it off at the back end here, which I don't know if the camera will pick that up. In terms of the top line, it's reasonable. It's not overly chunky at all. I actually just laid it down next to the 7-iron of my Titleist T200 and it felt very, very comparable. However, that does bring me on to the one thing that stood out like a sore thumb straight away, and I'll try and capture it on the video for you in a second, is my Titleist T200 7-iron is a 30-degree 7-iron, and in this world of strong lofts, that's pretty standard for a 7-iron if you take away the bladed golf clubs. In that kind of player's distance, game improvement kind of iron, you see anywhere between maybe 28 and 32 kind of degrees of loft for a 7-iron. This thing comes in at 26.5 degrees of loft. So in all intents and purposes, that's a 6-iron really. And I know most of you down the lens will be saying, wow, like that is very, very strong lofted. So one of the things we need to make sure of when we test this is, can it still get up in the air? Does it launch? Does it have some good peak heights on it? Can it still come in and land and hold a green? Can you get some spin on it? Or is it something that's going to be just low and all about distance? In which case, you've seen me talk on this channel before, there's no point hitting a 7-iron 160 yards if it rolls off the back of every green, because it rolls another 20 yards. So we need to look out for that when we're doing it. However, what I will say is overall I'm a massive fan of Cobra clubs. That's because the first ever set of clubs that I had custom fit were a set of Cobra irons, and I absolutely loved that set of irons. I kind of held on to them dearly, cleaned them all the time, where they were my first set of golf clubs. I still also play a Cobra hybrid in my bag. My 5-iron is actually a kind of a 5 hybrid, and I absolutely love it. The one thing I really do like about Cobra is you normally get some really good performance and at a really good price point compared to some of the other main manufacturers. Now, in a world at the moment where costs are going up, the cost of raw materials, the cost of making the clubs, cost of shipping the clubs is going up, that's all being passed on to us as a consumer. So if these do perform well, they do come in at the lower end of the price point of all the new clubs on the market. So there is a potential that you could get yourself a little bit of a bargain, particularly in the UK. I'm not sure how the pricing correlates in the US. But let's give them a hit, see how they perform, and yeah, see what numbers we get out of them. Okay, it's impressed me. I was not expecting it to go that high. Now I have hit a bit of a cut, which adds a bit of height. Yeah, 75.6 feet. That spin is very low, 4,800. That's my initial observation. Haven't hit loads and loads of shots tonight, but I've hit everything in the 5,000s. But it did go 153 yards. And it did land at 42.7. It's launched at 18.4. So my initial observations are, that's for me, that is a high 6-iron in terms of the spin number, the launch, the land angle. But let's hit a few more. I am impressed. That was surprising. I didn't expect it to go that high. Okay, I've hit a bit of a pull draw there, so it's gone a little bit lower. That felt very comparable to my T200 in terms of heights and things like that. That's gone at 60 feet, spinning at 3,008. Wow, there's no spin on that. Carried at 145, launching at 17.7, land angle at 36.3. We need to take that a little bit with a pinch of salt because of the fact that I've obviously hit a massive pull hook there. But yeah, it feels like it's not getting as much spin and then not coming in with as much height, land angle, sorry. Wow, I take it back. That's just a phenomenal golf shot. It felt fantastic. It really did feel good. Yeah, look at that. I've hit it 79.7 feet in the air. I've carried it 163. But again, like that's just blown me away, those two numbers. But it's spinning at 3,900. And again, I know you've got to take the total with a pinch of salt on TrackMan, but it's rolled for another 13 yards after the carry. But it launched at 18.7, which is good, but the land angle again, 42. I'm always looking for about 45 degree of land angle with my 7-iron to help give me that stopping power on greens, and I'm just a little bit worried. As much as that felt fantastic, again, maybe with this, if I'm hitting my 163, it just means that I'll be hitting my 8-iron, the numbers that I'm used to hitting my 7 with these because of the lofts. That's another fantastic strike. Like, they do feel great. They feel fantastic. Like, that one's only gone 69 feet, but it did spin at 4,800. But again, I've still not got over that 5,000 spin. Carried at 148 yards. So again, the carry's dropped down a little bit there, which probably shows, again, I thought I hit that quite well, but the carry was a bit down, landing at 41. So yeah, it might well just be here because of the lofts. You know, I'm getting closer to 6-iron performance in terms of numbers, which, yeah, is what the loft would say. And you've got to take the loft with a bit of a pinch of salt, right, in that regard. But if it means that I then just hit the 8-iron, all I end up doing is just needing another wedge at the top end of my bag, and I take a club out at the bottom. Oh, unfortunately just started that left and cutty, but I think it's going to be quite high again. But I do really like it. I'm really impressed with the height that it's getting on it still, considering the loft. Just would love that spin number to get up. I still can't get it over that 5,000, 4960 there, but carrying at 155. Like, these are the longest shots I've carried tonight using this club compared to a couple others I've been filming tonight and using my own. But that land angle still is at 42.9. I would just love to see it a couple of degrees more. And I would just love to see that spin just come up a couple of hundred revs into the 5,000s for me, just so I could have the confidence that I could hold a green. I've struck that really well. It's probably come out launched a little bit lower and height a little bit lower, but I have struck it phenomenally well. Yeah, peak height 70 feet, spinning at 4810, carrying at 157.4. Like, that's long. That's really long for what I'm putting in. Launching at 16.1. Again, that low launch and that land angle at 40.5. Well, let's try and hit one more. I'm desperate to try and give it every chance to get one over 5,000 on the spin. The one thing I would say is I think I've hit almost every one of these shots. They feel really middled, and I'd be interesting to look at that strike location when I get home. Like, I do love the club. It feels weighted perfect for me. A little bit lower, maybe a baby cut. I reckon it's around 70 feet. 73.7 feet, 4840 on the spin, carrying 152.4. Launch again at 18, land at 42.2. One more, this is its last attempt. Can I get it spinning over 5,000 with what I'm able to put in? Come on. Come on, Cobra, impress me. You've impressed me with how you look. You've impressed me with how you sound. You've impressed me with how you feel. And if I just pretend that you're a 6-iron, you impress me with the numbers. But I just want to see 5. Great shot to finish on, little baby cut. If I haven't done it there, I'm not going to do it at all. What have we got? Peak height 72.4, spin rate 5,120. I've finally done it. Carrying at 151.9, launching at 17.4, land angle 42.1. Great one to finish on because we finally achieved that goal. Okay, so a really good shot to finish on. I've been trying to get over that 5,000 spin number, and we've finally done it with 5,120. So my conclusions, just as I leave the bay, are it's a really good looking goal find. I actually think it's one of my favorite looking goal finds that I've seen for a while. Really sleek looking for a game improvement club. I think it's going to appeal to lots of people in terms of the price point compared to the price of lots of other new clubs at the moment. And I think it performs, it feels, it sounds, and it performs really, really well if we take away that 7, cross it out, and remember it's closer to a 6-iron. Now again, I don't think that's a problem. I've spoken about this quite a lot of times, which is at one end of your bag you have your driver, at the other end of the bag you have your 60-degree wedge or 58-degree wedge, and what you're trying to do is just get some gaps of all your clubs in the middle. Now if your irons are stronger lofted, then effectively you just need another wedge because everything has moved closer to your driver and you need to stick another wedge in, like a gap wedge or whatever. If you've got weaker lofted irons, then actually you normally need, you know, an extra hybrid or an extra fairway wood. So again, I don't think that's a problem, but if you're used to kind of hitting a 7-iron of a similar degree loft to what I've got at the moment, you put this in your bag, you might then need to rejuggle and add another wedge, take out maybe, what is it, the other end of your bag, or you might not even need to buy more than a 6-iron, which could again save you some money. You might start at a 6 and go up to a gap wedge and feel that then gaps into the existing clubs you've got really well. So I think there's some real options with here. I think you do need to make sure that if you do test it, you do remember that loft. Don't get blown away by the carry number because it is a really strong performing carry number. And remember that it is closer to a 6-iron. But if you can take all of that into consideration and give it a hit, I think there'll be lots of people that really like it. And let's get home, let's compare the feels we've had in the bay to the numbers, compare it to my 7-iron and my Titleist T200 and see how it performed. Okay, so just got home and had a chance to look at the two data sets side by side for the first time, and what you can see here at the top is a batch of shots you've just seen me hit with the Cobra Aerojet in the blue section, and in the red section a batch of shots I hit with my own Titleist T200 shortly before I started filming. And everything we felt in the bay is backed up by the numbers if we take a look at them. Club head speeds are almost identical, we're working our way here from left to right. Ball speed was fractionally higher at 2.3 miles an hour more. We would expect to see that from a stronger lofted club, and in turn we'd expect to see a higher smash factor, which is what we've seen at 1.39 versus 1.36. That carry number was 6.4 yards higher, and the total distance was 8.4 yards more as well. So again, backing up exactly what we were feeling in the bay. I talked a lot in the bay about that spin number and wanting to get it above 5,000. You can see here that it was 4,590, which was a little bit low, versus 5,200 with my own Titleist T200, backing up again how easy it was for me to continually hit above 5,000 with my own club. I did also say in the bay that I thought it was a really high launching, and the peak heights I was getting with it were really good for what I thought was a 6-iron loft. That's backed up again here, where you can see it's almost comparable, and actually the peak height is identical to my Titleist T200, and that land angle was only 1.3 degrees worse. I actually thought it was worse performing in the bay than data does show that it was. Now what this says to me in total is we do just need to consider gapping our bag a little bit differently if we were to get these irons. I definitely think they should be on your test list because they perform fantastically throughout the bag. They perform fantastically otherwise. And I did also check when I got home what the loft was on the 8-iron, and I'm pleased to say that the 8-iron was lofted at 31 degrees versus my 7-iron being at 30 degrees. And I think if I was doing the test with the Cobra 8-iron versus my Titleist T200 7-iron, I'd have been absolutely blown away by these clubs. Just to move over to the dispersion really quickly, I felt like I hit quite a lot of shots really straight with the iron. That's backed up here. Obviously, me being a handicapped golfer, I am going to hit a couple of bad ones, and you can see I've cut one off to the left and pulled a couple to the right-hand side. But the final thing I want to show you is the strike location. I was absolutely blown away by how the irons felt and some of the sounds I was getting off of them and the weighting of the club, and I think that's backed up by how much I was able to middle this golf club continuously. If we look at it compared to the strike with my Titleist T200, although they're both very comparable, I hit more shots with the Cobra Aerojet, which is why I'm really impressed by how middled it was for so many shots. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of the video now, and I just want to give you my final thoughts. Now, for me personally, I absolutely love the irons, the way they felt in my hand, the way they looked, the weighting of them, and how I was able to time up that quality of strike instantly made me a massive fan of these irons. And I did say at the beginning, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Cobra, and that's not changed after hitting these irons. I do understand though, there'll be some golfers watching down the lens that will have heard that loft right at the beginning of the video for the 7-iron and went, these aren't for me, I don't want to be hitting these power bats, etc. I totally understand that these probably aren't the right irons for you. But for a lot of golfers out there who are looking to add a little bit of extra distance, all I would say when you're testing these is don't just be sold on that distance alone, because I think if you compare these to lots of the other new irons, these will be one of the longest that you see in your testing. Just make sure you also check those spin numbers, do check those peak heights, do check those land angles. But if they do perform as strongly on those peak heights and those land angles as they did for me, and you're happy to consider just regapping your bag, then I think these could be a fantastic iron for people, especially at the price point that Cobra sell them at, which makes them substantially cheaper than lots of the other manufacturers. Overall, great job Cobra, really impressed once again. You've kept me as a fan. I will continue to be a fan and want to hit Cobra clubs. Now, final thing for me to say is if you like the video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. Please do consider subscribing to the channel. Both of those things really, really help me. I've got plenty more reviews of 2023 equipment coming soon. So thanks very much for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.